live in the mountains about 10 miles outside of town. I live near a winding back highway, well known for its many fatal accidents, a lot of which happen to be collisions with animals. These animals include deer, small rodents, sometimes more often than not, mountain lions. I grew up in the country my whole life, so I've seen just about every wild animal that my side of the state has to offer, whether alive or roadkill. Recently, I saw one that I could neither identify or rationalize. My husband and I stopped by for dinner with his coworkers in the town further down the windy road from our home. Once it grew closer to midnight, I knew we should be heading home. My husband insisted he wanted to stay a bit longer to have a drink with his buddy. Reluctantly, I agreed that he could stay, even though he knows I hate going home late at night by myself. We have about a half-mile of driveway leading to our home, which is blocked off by a padlock gate. I get paranoid every time I have to get out of my car to unlock the gate, and then relock it behind me. Not that I am afraid of someone attacking me, but way up in the country, I am scared of a wild animal mauling me. The number of mountain lions and bears in our area is definitely above average. I headed back home alone, my husband promising he'd only be out for another hour. I took the dangerous road extra cautiously in the evening. The thick cover of trees surrounding the road made it pitch black. After arriving at my road, I hit the gravel fast and eager to get inside. What I saw next made me slam on my brakes so hard I fishtailed a bit and scattered gravel every which way. What I saw barely 2 feet from my car was incomprehensible. It looked almost like a human figure at first. It appeared emaciated. Its ribs stuck out so far, they took a barrel shape. It was hunched over, but if it stood straight, it had to be at least 8 feet tall. It had tufts of matted hair all over its body. What skin shone through appeared mangled and mutilated. It also had long limbs, almost resembling human arms, but too thin and too discolored. Its legs were arched like wolves. It had no sign of a human face. The face had what seemed to be a snout that contained a sharp set of canine teeth that revealed themselves as it snarled at me. My eyes locked with its piercing yellow eyes. It stared me down for what felt like an eternity. Then, all of a sudden, it broke our gaze, swiftly disappearing into the woods. I was so scared I sat in my car until my husband arrived home, about an hour later. He had to knock on my window to get my attention. He questioned me about it once we were in the safety of our home. I've been dealing with paranormal experiences with spirits since I was a child, but my husband says he has never seen me this shook up before. I guess I'm not good with something that can rip me from limb to limb. I'll take a ghost over that creature any day. The name is Alex. It's a generic white boy name, I'm aware, but I was actually born and raised in a small town called Chinle. Chinle is nestled deep in the arid mountains of the NE Navajo Nation, in the northeast corner of Arizona. While many Arizonan small towns embody some nostalgic Americana feel, this cannot be said for any town on the reservation. The reservation, Chinle included, was rife with poverty, alcoholism, abuse, and social isolation. It's the closest you can get to hell within the United States. So perhaps it isn't any wonder that after buying vodka from a friend at the age of 16, I was merely wandering the outskirts of town, taking swigs of vodka. My father was abusive, my mother dead. I had no real reason to return home for the night, nor did my father have any reason to care if I returned. I had a bottle of vodka in one hand and a gun in my jacket pocket, in the off chance that some shit went down, as it tends to on the reservation. The night would have been memorable, even without my petrifying and life-changing experience, as it was a frigid March night, with temperatures below freezing. There was a light dusting of snow falling from the pitch-black night sky. That's one of the benefits of the Navajo Nations. Clear night skies. I walked in a lackadaisical fashion, alongside a 2-lane road, a rural road, on which few ever drove. I heard rustling noises in the bushes to the left, and spotted a coyote. I shrugged it off. I'd had dozens of encounters with coyotes in my life. I had no reason to fear it. I took another swig of vodka and continued walking, hoping I could reach the state line by 1 a.m. The crisp night air seemed to accelerate into a much more frigid, windy atmosphere. Something felt off. Something felt deeply ominous in an unsettling way. I glanced to my left again. The coyote, which must have been 25 yards from me prior, was now only 10 yards away from me. and slowly walking in my direction. Perhaps it's hostile, I thought to myself. Regardless, I remained largely apathetic, though I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a modicum of fear at this point. 30 seconds later, I'm still walking down the road. The coyote is within 30 feet of me, keeping pace with me. It didn't seem outwardly hostile from a cursory glance. It just appeared as if it was following me, as if I had a nice slab of steak in my back pocket. I kept an eye turned to the coyote. I was growing deeply concerned. A drop of icy sweat dripped past my brow. The wind only grew stronger, and the coyote closer. I considered my options, and quickly realized that I could get fucked over if I didn't act. Seeing as I was the track star of the Chinle High School prior to my expulsion, I leaped forward at a rapid pace, and simply ran for it. I bolted, hauled ass, and sprinted. The coyote remained walking momentarily, as if it didn't want to bother some drunken teenager sprinting through a frigid desert. Then the coyote rapidly picked up his pace, and within seconds, was a mere few feet behind me. The facade of passiveness in the coyote's eyes had vanished. I saw pure hatred. I swore its eyes were yellow. I swear it. I had never seen anything like it in my life. Absolutely frightened, I smashed the bottle of vodka across its skull when it came no more than 1 foot behind me. While the coyote was wounded, I wasn't fucking around. I continued running. I paused for a second, looked back, and continued running. The glass was easily lodged within the coyote's head. I looked back and saw a pool of blood formulating on the icy road. I looked forward, then again looked back, and did a double take. The coyote no longer had a wound on its head, and again was running full force towards me. So, I did something that is completely illegal on the reservation. Something worse than bootlegging alcohol at the age of 16. I pulled out my grandfather's old pistol I carried, and fired a shot. I missed. I tried again, and missed again. The coyote is again behind me, snarling something violent, as if it was trying to communicate. The ominous silence had vanished. The coyote was enraged and inhuman. I fired a third shot. This time it landed and hit the coyote's head, wounded, yet again. And you better believe I didn't stop to celebrate. I had seen what this bastard was capable of. I dropped my pistol and ran. Then I saw headlights. I frantically stood in the middle of the road, motioning towards the oncoming car, attempting to stop him. Most Navajo don't pick up hitchhikers for safety precautions, so I was going to force this guy to let me in. Within 10 seconds, the man driving the vehicle came to a screeching halt, almost slipping on the black ice. I stood by the passenger door, and he reluctantly rolled down the window. "Let me in. A fucking coyote is chasing me. I'm not a delinquent, I swear. Please, sir. Trust me," I begged and yelled at the driver. He simply nodded his head and let me inside his vehicle. He must have been drunk, I figured. I took deep and long breaths as I buckled my seatbelt, and gazed back into the rearview mirror of the automobile, driven by a silent drunk Navajo man. The coyote was running behind us, easily going faster than 30 miles an hour, maybe even 40 miles an hour. The man took notice of this and began speeding up. "Kid, is this what chased you?" he said in an incomprehensible slur. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a coyote. Faster it ran, I began to see it. Antlers. A pelt on its head. Wait, his head. The four-legged creature was now on its hind legs. Wait, no. Where did his 2 other legs go? The driver glanced at me and locked eyes with me. "Skinwalkers," he said calmly. "That is a skinwalker. I will drive fast now," he said. 60 miles an hour, it followed. Even after 65 miles an hour. Once we reached a magical 80 miles an hour in his beat-up Toyota, the creature was no longer visible in the rearview mirror. The driver chuckled in a drunken fashion and said, "Ha, skinwalkers. Tourists who come here say it's just folklore." I've never told this story to anyone, and I don't really intend to tell it again. I have a pounding migraine today, and this thread has kept me good company as I've drifted in and out. I don't really like talking about this time in my life, but I want to contribute. When I was 10 to 12, I lived with my mother. We were below poverty level poor. We lived up in the mountains around Santa Cruz, California. My mother had a friend that owned a large bit of property up there, and he let us stay in a trailer. Our trailer was very small, and right beside a garden. A chain link fence ran around the garden to keep the dog the owner had out, along with other animals. Deer and things are very common in this area. Also, inside the fenced area was a single room. It was built like a tiny house, but it was only a single room on the inside. This room had electricity, and since our actual trailer didn't, I spent a lot of time in there. I was super into video games. There is one thing you should know right now. This small fenced area was only part of the property, but most of it was heavily forested. Also, I refused to leave the fenced area because the owner's dog had been mistreated by children in the past and was very sketchy towards me all the time. If I was alone, it would bite me, even through the fence. The fence was tall, at least 7 feet high, and wasn't movable though, so as long as the gate was closed, I was safe. With that said, you could see it was a tiny piece of the property. There is no one else around for miles and miles. Now, I tell you all of this because I think it's important you understand what kind of scene this was before I really get into this story. My mom's van is parked out in front of the gate to the fenced-in area. Also, a single unpaved road runs from this garden for about a mile to the main house. Now then, I brought friends up there to sleep over here and there. We all thought it was pretty cool, you know, like camping out sort of. Besides, we would get our own room to stay in, to play video games all night long. It was like a dream come true. The downside was simple. When it got dark out, it really got dark out. No city around, and the trailer would not be lit up. There was no bathroom to use in the room, and you would have to walk through the dark garden in order to get to the trailer to use it. Odd things happen out here from time to time. It was always something that could easily be somewhat explained though. Noises like people working at night sometimes. Or once, me and my friend were sitting out in the garden, and we saw a shadow as big as a small bear bound up a tree. But the tree didn't shake at all, like there was weight on it. The dog also creeped me out, but you know, angry dog, and I was a kid. Now, I am a scaredy cat. I have always been. To be honest, I don't even know why I come to 4chan X. I have trouble walking through a lit house if I am home alone. My friends, however, tend to be a bit more outgoing. Just the kind of people I get along with. This time, I had a friend over. His name was Jacob. We were staying up all night and playing Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on my Sega Genesis on a ratty old television. We were staying up all night and playing Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on my Sega Genesis on a ratty old television. We started playing as the sun went down, and by the time we were finishing up the game, it was about 2 a.m. We turned off the game getting ready to find something else to play. There was a rumbling in the woods behind the room we were in, like somebody was rolling something really heavy around. We didn't hear it before because the game we were playing was really loud. Immediately I had goosebumps. Jacob was not worried about it though. It's not like there was someone else's house or yard right over there. It was forest for miles, and it sounded like someone was constructing something or some shit. Dragging or rolling something really big. Eventually Jacob convinced me to play some more games. I agreed on the condition that we turn down the volume so we could hear if anything happened. We started playing, and I didn't even notice the noise stop because we were getting so engrossed in the game. A couple hours later, Jacob said he had to use the bathroom. I was feeling fine by then, so I was fine when he left to the trailer to go relieve himself. He was taking a while, so I eventually decided I was gonna go check on him. Besides, I could use the bathroom and grab a snack while I was at it. I opened the door to leave, and he was just standing at the doorway, right outside the door, facing it. It scared the shit out of me. I asked him what he was doing, and he just stood there, blocking the exit. I realized he must have sneaked up to the door, because I could hear him walk away from the room, but I hadn't heard him walk back up to it. It was super quiet out there without the noises of the city. I should have been able to hear him. He refused to say anything or respond. He just stood there. I told him he was really creeping me out, but it was not unlike him to try and scare me like this. Finally, I decided to just go to the trailer and use the bathroom myself. Partially because I knew my mother was asleep in there. I told him what I was doing, then moved past him. When I pushed him out of the way a little, his skin felt freezing to the touch. I jumped a little, but it was a cold night, and he had been standing out there for like 30 minutes, so I figured that was to be expected. I walked as quickly as I could over to the trailer. He followed me, like right on my tail. It was unnerving. I joked a little, saying that he had already surprised me by scaring me at the door. The joke is already over. Finally I got to the trailer and walked in. He didn't follow, he just stayed at the doorway. I checked on my mom, who was fast asleep. then turned to go into the bathroom. Now, it being a porta potty, we keep the bathroom door shut because, well, it smells bad. When I reach for the door and try to open it though, it's locked. A nervous voice came from behind the door. I'm in here. I quickly turned to look at Jacob, but the door was still open and there was nothing out there but pitch black night. I froze in terror. I would have heard the bathroom door open if he had come in behind me and gone that way. There is no way to do it quietly. It creaks like a motherfucker. I yelped so loud that my mom woke up startled. I stared at the doorway, unable to bring myself to move a muscle. She got up, walked over there, and looked out. Not seeing anything, she closed the door and asked me what was wrong. By now, Jacob was coming out of the bathroom and acting perfectly normal, but a bit confused. I explained what happened. Jacob said he was taking a long time in the bathroom. Neither of them believe me at all, no matter how much I insist. My mom is sure that I just got sleepy and imagined it. Jacob thought I was trying to prank him. So my mom gets out a big flashlight and walks us back to the room. She tells us to go to sleep, then leaves and goes back to bed herself. Now this room doesn't have any windows or anything, so after a while, I calm down a little. I'm telling myself my mom was right. I must have had like a waking dream or something. Jacob insists he was in the bathroom the whole time. I'm inclined to believe him because none of this makes sense. So I settled down. I'm a little bit rattled, but I'm thinking that I can just sleep it off through the night. Suddenly, the dog starts going nuts, right behind us. The room is up against the fence, so the dog must have been like, right behind the room, on the other side. I felt like I jumped so high, I was surprised it didn't hit the roof. Jacob was laughing at me, saying, "Ha, the dog was probably barking at a squirrel or something, but you're basically over here shitting yourself." The dog keeps barking for a long time through. Suddenly, the barking stops and gets replaced by whimpering. We hear the dog run away. There are about 45 seconds of silence before we hear something new. A small scratching sound on the back of the wall of the room. We both tried to be as silent as we could. Eventually, the scratching stopped. After 5 or so minutes of silence, Jacob decided to be brave. He insists he is going to go get my mother, tell her something crazy is going on, and we're gonna go from there, with some kind of divine adult protection in mind, no doubt. I wish he wouldn't have left me alone, but there is no way I was going out there. Never ever. He arms himself as best as he can, with the tennis racket we had in the room with us. Then he takes a couple of deep breaths, and opens the door, and dashes out. I close the door as quick as possible. In less than 30 seconds, I hear a scream. Not long after, the door flies open, and he comes back looking as pale as a ghost. He's breathing like he ran a marathon. His eyes look as big as a dinner plate. I asked him what was going on like 4 times before he got any words out. He tells me he walked out there, and he was walking through the garden as quick as he could. Then he saw my mom, just standing there. He tried to talk to her, but she stared at him with a blank expression. Getting super creeped out because of what happened to me earlier, he took a couple more steps towards her, telling her that he thought something was in the woods. Suddenly, her face turned to an awkward smile. Then he realized something terrible. He hadn't noticed sooner because of the darkness, and how much of a hurry he had been in. She was on the other side of the fence. Now, the door to this room does not have a lock. As I explained earlier, this room had no windows. He had been trying to move stuff in front of the door as he told the story, and by the end, I was helping him. In retrospect, whatever was harassing us seemed to be adverse to actually entering the room, or the trailer. The Jacob one I had seen earlier could have entered the room, but it didn't, and the room was not sturdy. Either way, we stacked everything we could up against the door, thinking somehow that like in cartoons, this would totally keep the creature out. For the rest of the night, we heard scratches coming from all around the room. I cried a little bit. Jacob looked like his mind had left his body with fear. At one time, I thought I heard the creature speak too. I heard from right next to where I was resting against the wall, in my mother's voice, quietly. The same exact phrasing and intonation she had used earlier in the night. "What's wrong?" Followed immediately by, "Go to sleep." The sun must have come up eventually. The scratching eventually stopped. We heard my mom come to get us, this time, actually hearing footsteps. We absolutely refused to leave the room. My mom had to go get the property owner and have him take the door off. When we saw that it was actually her, I burst into tears again. We never had any experiences like these ever again, and eventually moved away, but that night still haunts me. I still refuse to go out at night, unless I am with a bunch of people, and I will never live in the woods again. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed hearing about all of this. If you want to make an image and repost it, feel free. I probably won't tell it again though. Thanks for listening. Hey guys, it's me, Drybones. Sup, you beautiful bastards! If you enjoyed the video, please share, leave a like, or comment. Again guys, thank you for all the support. I'm sorry I haven't been uploading recently. I'm gonna try to change that, even though college has been kinda stressful. Thanks for listening to me ramble. And as always guys, I love your faces and I'll see you in a week. Hopefully. Oh yeah, and one last thing. Stay spooky, my friends.